Hi, my name's Henry Faust. I'm a professional wrestler from Newcastle upon Tyne, England, and these are questions that you have for a professional wrestler. So I have a little envelope of questions here. We're going to draw them out at random and see what questions you degenerates have for a professional wrestler. How much can you eat before a match? This is interesting because this is very much varied person to person. I mean, personally, I tend to eat like, do you mind we're filming content? This varies person to person. I've seen people eat full meals before they go out and wrestle. I've seen people have protein shakes before they go out and wrestle. Personally, something that works for me is real fruits and veg, weirdly. But it's not much. I get quite anxious and nervous before matches. I think that nerves are a good thing. It's just trying to avoid the scenario where I'm in a ring having a match and very suddenly I feel the urge to throw up. Do wrestlers get cold in the ring? No. No, they don't. Let me tell you this much. Venue lights are Satan's work. They are so hot all the time, and no matter how much you drink water, you'll get in there and suddenly your mouth will be drier than the Sahara. So I think it's almost like on the other end of the scale, where it's like 9 times out of 10 you're so warm that you'll come backstage and your steam will be rising off you. So no, cold is not a factor when it comes to wrestling. What do your family and friends think about you pursuing wrestling? Oh, okay, right. So I'm very lucky. My family, like, I got into wrestling because of my older cousin. My older cousin was a huge fan during the Attitude Era. When I was growing up, he'd babysit for me and my sisters, and he would just put Raw on, and that's how I fell into wrestling very quickly. My parents don't get it. They don't get it. I don't think my sisters really get it either, but they're supportive. They're very supportive. And I think a lot of people in your life, when you tell them that you're involved in a niche like wrestling, everyone has a wrestling story, so everyone gets very excited to like try and get into the nitty gritty of it all and like, ooh, so like, what is it all real? Is it all fake? I think I'm very lucky in that I'm one of the I don't know. I think most people I've spoken to have said that they've got family and friends who are really supportive of it, and mine are. So endlessly grateful for that. In fact, my parents have now come in to see me wrestle, and my grandpa has as well, and he's very proud, which is awesome. But it is one of those very, very strange experiences of like having to explain to your parent like, hey, I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but if I'm hurt, that's kind of on me more than anything else. Do I think Conan or Jay Leno should have hosted the Tonight Show? Conan. It should have been Conan. Jay Leno stepped away and then he clawed his way back in like the scum that he is. Conan O'Brien. That's the answer to that question. I want to know who asked that question. I need to know that. That is quality. A Conan O'Brien or Jay Leno question in the big year of our Lord 2026. Oh my God, that's made me lightheaded a little bit. That's so funny. How do you go over a match before the show? I'm not answering that question because there's some things that you as fans don't need to know. You don't need this. Why take away the magic? You don't want to know this. That's the thing. They're like, do you want to know what goes into a Greg sausage roll? Of course you don't. You want to taste it at the end and go, that was class. That was a Greg sausage roll. I'm not answering that. Sod that question. Whoever asked that question, in the bin, unless it was you, in which case, there we go. It wasn't the cameraman. What is it like wrestling someone who speaks another language? Okay, so I have experience in this, having been to Japan and wrestled someone who's from Japan. We're lucky in the sense that professional wrestling is more of like an easier thing to communicate than a lot of other things, because in a way it was always described to me is that like wrestling is like the only true team sport because it's everyone involved in the sport of it against the crowd, which I find really interesting. I think, again, we're very, very lucky in that, like, because wrestling is so westernized and so homogenized to be more English-leaning, that a lot of moves that you'll find across country either have an English equivalent or are just in English full stop. So it kind of... It's difficult to kind of say without pulling the curtain back too much, but it's a lot easier than you'd think, while also having its very obvious trip-ups. So, like... if you have a move that is a very, very famous move, but you call it something different, and then you go, oh, so I'm going to hit you with like the Kill Driver 3000, and they go, what? It's then on you to go, oh, it's a pile driver. You know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty straightforward answer to that one. Have you ever had a match that you know didn't work as it was happening? Oh, God. Yes. Very early on in my career, I think it was my first ever singles match booked outside the Northeast. I wrestled someone and I was terrible. And this is something that you learn. Sometimes you're just not on form and maybe you're inexperienced and shouldn't be in a position that you're put in. And I was put in one of those positions and I was terrible. And the problem was it wasn't terrible because the entire match was terrible. The bits where I was supposed to look good, I looked terrible because it was me, because my ability level wasn't up to snuff. And that is my biggest thing for some wrestlers. Please know that you can just say no to things if you're not comfortable or if you don't feel ready. I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel comfortable. That's how bad it was. The police kit, no. We should follow it and find the excitement. Yeah, sometimes you just ain't ready. Sometimes you just aren't on, and that's okay too. But yeah, more often than not, if a crowd responds with silence, like I've always said, cheers and boos are the best form of currency in professional wrestling. Silence, that's death. That's real death. Oh, that was a brutal one. That's memories, man. Where do you buy gear from and what do you look for in it? You should always buy gear from somebody who's recommended to you. I think when you're first starting out, like, you can get away with the more mass-marketed and mass-produced, like, if you're in America, High Spots is obviously there. E-Lucha is a very famous sort of, like, shindy gear maker. I'm not going to tell you who to go for because every single gear maker's books are now completely filled up. So I'm not going to give you who to buy from. But there are some very obvious ones. I think that, like, especially now in the age of social media, like, you're more aware of who gear makers are. Like, Black Country Beast is obviously somebody who got very big because they were doing Pete Dunne and Trent Seven and Tyler Bate. And, like, I always say to people when they're getting gear done, if you're getting your first pair, just get something that you think that you'll like for quite some time. Because if you get bored of it very quickly, that becomes a very expensive habit. I have had, I think, 7 pairs of trunks in my entire career. Bearing in mind I've only been wrestling for about 7 or 8 years. And let me tell you, they got incrementally more expensive every single time. But sometimes you do just find your gear makers. You find people who do make the best pair that accentuate how you look and make you feel good while you're wearing it. But I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to gatekeep because I'm allowed to. I'm in control here. I'm answering the questions. I'm going to clear through these. These could have been left for a different piece of content, but fuck them. Does Wrestler's Court exist on the indies? If it does, and if you do have a Wrestler's Court, you're a fucking melt. And you can quote me on that. Wrestler's Court it's so funny to think that a bunch of drunk Fed workers in the 90s and like late 80s were like, we're so important on these shows, so we're going to hold a It's bollocks. It's so bollocks. If there's a Wrestler's Court on the indies that actually does occur, that is hysterically funny. No, not as far as I'm aware, but if there is one, I will call it out as hilariously shit. It's so lame. If you've got an issue with someone, go and talk to them directly. You're an adult. Act like it. What is it like to wrestle in Japan? So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But again, that was a dream that I'd had since I was 8 or 9 years old. For me, wrestling never really clicked with me until I was very lucky and found the Wrestling Channel, which we had here in the UK, and I had Sky, so I was very lucky to be able to watch things like Pro Wrestling Noah, to be able to watch, I think Dragon Gate was on there for a short time, there was some All Japan on there as well. So for me, it was always just down to, like, I watched that and went, this is the dream, this is the goal. And I was very lucky last summer when I went over that I got the opportunity to wrestle for Meriken in Kobe, and they were so welcoming, so accommodating, and I got to wrestle on my friend Kohei Kinoshita, shout out to Kohei, on his produce show the very next day against Koki Fujimoto, who's one of their burgeoning trainees. It's very interesting because I think I got very lucky in that I was able to communicate with my very broken Japanese. I don't speak a lot of Japanese, but I know enough words that it can get you over with very exuberant Japanese fans, especially those in Kobe who are so passionate, and lucky enough to work someone like Yashi-san, who is a legend, and to be teaming with like Karnatux, who's very much in the same situation as me, but he's, you know, from Qatar and lives over there now. So it was a dream come true. It was a well and truly dream come true to be over there and to be doing it, and then to get paid for it. That's the craziest bit, is that you finish a match and go, that was a dream come true, and then you get handed an envelope and you go, oh my god, I get paid for this. This is the coolest thing in the world. Like, you know, it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I think that is every single question. Make sure that you follow me at HFRQ on Instagram and at HenryXFaust on Twitter. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Vibe to Guiden. And thanks for having me, guys. Have a great rest of your day.